Okay, so listening strategy number one. This term agile, if you haven't heard it, you're going to hear it more and more. I believe that leaders need to be more and more agile. And by that I mean you need to be able to move and course correct. It's impossible for you to have all the information you need to make decisions today. So I think it's more powerful for you to be able to correct a decision after it's done than it is to make the right decision. And I've worked in these companies. Let's have a meeting to decide who's going to come to the meeting. I'm like, are you kidding me? We're going to have a meeting to talk about who's going to come to the meeting? We can't do that anymore. Things are moving too quickly, and we've got to make things in real time. How many of you actually put a 5- and 10-year plan together for your businesses that you really believe in today? Anybody? Okay. We need to talk later. So many organizations right now, it's good to have an idea of where you want to go, but we have to constantly update our plans around the future. And people are doing one-year plans right now, and they're revisiting them every 6 months when they think about their businesses. So what does an agile leader do? It's just a real simple cycle. You make the best decision possible, you monitor that decision, you course correct when necessary, you adjust, and then you repeat. And I think that's super, super important. You know, I think leaders build credibility more by correcting a decision that needed to be corrected than they do by making the right decision. The same way your most loyal customer is never the one you never screwed up with. Your most loyal customer is the one, there was a mess up, you fixed it, now they saw what you're made of. Okay? So this is an opportunity. I'm not saying make decisions before you have as much information as possible. I'm just telling you, you fix something, you course correct it, you say, my bad, we're going to fix this over here and change it, you're going to build more loyalty and more connective tissue. People really want great leaders today as much as ever. Third big item that we're facing right now, you know, this transparency that we've got, this high velocity, is creating this in mountains and mountains of data that, as I mentioned before, I believe the best leaders are insight brokers and folks who are always listening and being able to connect other people in the organization to get things done. We are not going to see a reduction in the amount of information that we have. We still have an enormous way to go of doing that. And this transparency reality, where all your actions are actually getting archived in places out there, is really changing the game. A few years ago, I had a recording that I gave as part of a talk around your professional brand and how you are more exposed today. Anyone familiar with Tim Armstrong? Tim Armstrong, CEO at America Online. Does anyone here still have an AOL personal email address? Okay, awesome. You give away, like, if you're, okay, was it AOL? Okay, who else? Yahoo one. That was the next wave. And then it was, anyway. So you can tell sort of when someone got on the internet by where their personal email was. But Tim Armstrong was giving a company address to his employees a few years ago. And one of the things that he was told by his team he needed to let everyone know is that benefit costs are going up. Sound familiar, Dan? Benefits costs going up? Yeah. Okay. So he had to let his employees know benefits costs are going up. And in the course of telling his employees, in the company all-hands meeting, thousands of AOL employees, he said, you know, one of the big drivers was we had 2 very complicated pregnancies that drove up the costs. And guess who was in the room? One of the moms who went through that. Think she was pretty happy? Think she got her mobile device out? Think she went nuclear on Tim? Yeah, went nuclear. Tim also had another meeting a few weeks later that happened to be recorded by one of the employees in the room. You may have heard this one, where they were going around and it was a company that AOL had just acquired, and there was somebody that was not really pleasing Tim in that meeting, and it was recorded. You know, I think his name, the employee's name was like Angus. Angus, put down that phone. What are you doing? Angus, you're fired. Get out of here. And it was recorded, and it went viral on SoundCloud and all these other sites out there that capture data. So Tim's brand took a pretty big pop. And I'm not saying, you know, don't let yourself get recorded. That's not the message here. The message is your decisions are going to be exposed more than ever before. I think it's a good thing, and it's an opportunity for you. But sites like Glassdoor are getting an enormous amount of weight and eyeball time from prospective candidates in your organization. People want to know what others think about your leadership style. So you need to have a strategy around that. You know, this stuff's not going away, right? So I think that's a super important point that I want to emphasize with you. Personalized experience, I got ahead of myself. I talked about this, life at Facebook, I talked about the Netflix model of compensation. Dropbox did something really cool, really simple. Those of you struggling to sort of say, hey, it's hard to really compete against all these sexy brands out here, you know, trying to hire people against Google and Apple, and they're seduced, candidates are seduced by how great their brands are. Dropbox did something pretty interesting. They developed this concept which has since been adopted by a lot of other people called Parents at Work Day. Okay? Instead of bring your kids to work, bring your parents to work. And has anyone here got something similar going so far? No? All right, cool. So it's an interesting idea. So think about this. You've got a lot of millennials in your organization, a little fickle bunch. They don't tend to stay around as much. Let's bring their parents in here so they can see all the free snacks and the free food and the soups we got over there. So when they go to mom and dad and say, yeah, the Dropbox thing's not working out for me, the parents are going to say, well, you're not moving back in here. You're not getting a loan from me. Get your butt back over there, Dropbox. That CEO's super nice. It was genius. It cost a few bucks, and they don't do it for every parent, but they do it for all the new hires. I thought, I love that strategy. Sort of addressing that millennial turnover problem in a different way, which is super fun. All right, something super cool that I think is happening right now in the world is this concept of wearable performance management. And I do this more out of, this is where I see leadership and performance going. In the same way that 5-star manager rating that we do for some of our experience with people like Uber drivers is going to happen, we're going to have that for leaders. The NBA has been pioneering something really amazing lately, which will come to an office near you at some point in the next few years. That is, they've installed 35 cameras over every NBA arena, and they're starting to monitor things like, you know, Andre Iguodala, every time he gets the ball, 9 times out of 10 he goes left with the dribble first before he goes right. Or that, and Andre was wearing this, heart monitor on his jersey that was tracking his performance, and they found out after 8 minutes, his performance starts to decline, as measured by how well did the team do when he was on the court versus not being on the court. So we need to give Andre more rest. We have still, in this era of everyone's got a job, everyone works in an office, we have still got miles to go to be able to recognize when someone's hitting fatigue or when someone's not hitting fatigue. We did an interesting study when I was at LinkedIn because we were just terrified of turnover. Like, we cannot have people leave. We are digging this moat. This company is like, it's an organization going through puberty. If we lose someone, it's going to hurt us. So why are people leaving? And who's leaving? And we found something pretty interesting. We put our benefits data together with our turnover data, and we found something pretty interesting. One of my people stumbled on it. They said, Steve, we found something pretty cool here. There's a statistically significant greater number of people leaving after they have their first child than people leaving for other reasons. I thought, really? Why is that? Well, probably because it's one of the biggest life events anyone can have, and it shifts your thinking about your time and what you're doing in life when you have that first child. So we thought, okay, so we need to make sure we don't let people go home so they can't be with their partners. Let's figure out a way. No, it did occur to me. It occurred to me. We said, what can we do about that? So the first knee jerk is, oh, more paternity, more paternity. No, that's not the right answer. We think we need to help people go through some counseling and through some preparation emotionally with their family, with their partners. Think about supporting the individual as a member of a family, not as just my employee. And you do that, we started to do that, people care about you more than just an employer. They care, like, you're caring for me and my family. So these are some of the insights as we get more and more capable systems for monitoring performance. Hitachi Data Systems did something interesting recently. You know those badges that people swipe to get into doors? Some of you have them at your organization, sort of swipe this. So a lot of those are equipped with chips. And Hitachi, and I know this is interesting and also creepy at the same time, said, let's monitor what people are doing during the day. So they just put this huge screen together, had a bunch of engineers, and said, and so they defined, you know, every employee had a number, and every department had a number attached to that number, and they saw something pretty interesting. One of their highest performing teams would always have lunch together. And so they thought about that, and they researched it more and said, that's interesting, these guys are having lunch together. Is it because they're having lunch that they're higher performing, or is it because they're so tight as an organization and a team that they want to spend time together? That's connected to why they're more higher performing. And that's ultimately what they found, is that the cohesion was so tight there that they wanted to spend time together. And so, like, okay, we need to find out how to monitor how we build better glue in organizations. So I just give some of these examples because these are going to start to happen here. We should start to know for our employees, Do they perform better in the morning, in the evening, under pressure, in the dark, alone, with lots of people, with a boss who's a yeller, with a boss that they never see? Do they perform better when they work at home? We got to start thinking about this differently, because everyone performs differently. I was just having a conversation with my table about education. People learn differently. Some people like a classroom. Some people like to learn on their own. Some people like to learn without reading. Just tell me what I need to do. How people perform. We've got to recognize everyone's a little different. We've all got to become sort of that Greg Popovich, Phil Jackson, understand everyone's coming at it a different place. And how do we mine that for genius? Last thing I think I want you to think about as leaders is that I think we have an enormous responsibility to unlock insights. And I talked earlier about a listening strategy. At LinkedIn, we did something which was sort of counterintuitive, but it was a result of a few interesting things, such as my CEO he was a perfectionist and he hated writing emails, and it took him about 3 hours to just write an email. So we would never do emails, but we never sent an email to the company about anything of substance. It was only delivered in a company meeting. So we'd have once a week, it was like news at 5 o'clock. Once a week, we'd get together with the whole company, and we tried to borrow from what we thought Steve Jobs did, which was create this sense of like, this is a really fun event for people. So we never sent an announcement out about, oh, this, we just acquired a company, or so-and-so was promoted, or, please welcome these new hires. It was an all-hands meeting that everyone got together. And in this era of digital seduction, and we are in that era, people, like, I don't know about you, but I look at my phone way too much. We have got to get back to helping people look at each other and operate face to face. And I think this is probably the one area where I'm helping organizations struggle with the most, which is executive comes to me and says, Steve, I'm worried my employees are looking at a screen more than they are another person. How do I build trust through a device versus another set of eyeballs? Because that connective tissue is why people stay. It's the human connection. It's not the cool app that your company has. It's the people. And so I want to encourage you, don't get seduced by that. I fall prey to it, everyone falls prey to it. We've got to go out of our way to be more human. And when you think about it in this digital era, what technology in its ultimate form of delivery really should be is allowing us to have more greater human connection. That's really what we should be getting out of our technology. Not, hey, I saved a few minutes because I didn't have to go to the grocery store because I got my groceries delivered. No, it's to buy me time to spend with my kids. That's why I'm doing that, right? And so let's not forget that.